The Krethak War Council convened in the massive obsidian chamber aboard their flagship, Devastator's Edge. General Vextar, his chitinous exoskeleton gleaming under the harsh lighting, addressed the gathered commanders with the confidence of a species that had never known defeat. "The humans," he declared, his mandibles clicking with amusement, "are the weakest race we have ever encountered. No natural armor, no claws, no venom. Their technology is primitive, their ships barely spaceworthy. This will be the shortest campaign in Krethak history." The assembled officers chittered their agreement. For 3,000 years, the Krethak had carved a bloody path across the galaxy. Their exoskeletons could deflect plasma fire. Their strength was 20 times that of a human, and their reflexes were faster than any species had a right to be. They had crushed the crystalline Zephyrians, enslaved the psychic Mentari, and wiped out dozens of other civilizations. The humans, with their soft pink skin and fragile bones, seemed like a cosmic joke. Commander Sarah Chen watched the Krethak fleet approach Earth through the viewport of the defense station Indomitable. She'd read the intelligence reports. The Krethak were everything the briefing said: stronger, faster, better armed. By every logical measure, humanity should surrender. But Sarah had also read human history. "All stations, this is Commander Chen," she broadcast to the scattered defense fleet. "Remember, we're not trying to win a fair fight. We're trying to survive. And humans don't survive by being the strongest." The first Krethak assault came exactly as predicted, a direct frontal assault with overwhelming force. Their dreadnoughts hammered Earth's orbital defenses while fighters swarmed like angry hornets. The human fleet, seemingly outmatched, began a fighting retreat toward the asteroid belt. General Vextar watched with satisfaction as the human ships fled. "Pursue them," he ordered. "We'll crush them against the rocks of their own solar system." What the Krethak didn't know was that humanity had spent 2 centuries turning the asteroid belt into the galaxy's most elaborate trap. Every piece of space debris had been catalogued, mined, and weaponized. The retreating human ships weren't running. They were leading the Krethak into a maze of hidden railgun platforms, nuclear mines, and automated defense systems. The first Krethak ship to explode came as a surprise. The 10th came as a shock. By the 20th, General Vextar realized something was terribly wrong. "How are they hitting us?" he demanded. "Our sensors show nothing." His tactical officer's voice was tight with confusion. "Sir, they're using the asteroids themselves as weapons, some kind of mass driver system. And the rocks, they're all connected. It's like the entire belt is one massive weapon." Sarah smiled grimly as she watched the Krethak formation beginning to crumble. Humans had learned long ago that when you can't be the strongest, you had to be the smartest. And sometimes, the smartest thing was to turn your environment into your ally. But the Krethak were far from finished. Adapting quickly, they pulled back and began a methodical bombardment of Earth itself. If they couldn't defeat the human fleet, they'd simply destroy the planet. That's when they discovered humanity's second lesson in survival. The first missiles to strike Earth's surface triggered something unexpected. Instead of cities burning, the impact zones erupted in massive electromagnetic pulses. The Krethak bombardment wasn't destroying human infrastructure, it was activating it. Dr. James Okafor, monitoring from a bunker deep beneath Geneva, watched his life's work unfold. For 50 years, he'd been building a planetary defense grid, disguised as civilian infrastructure. Every major city's power grid could be converted into a massive railgun. Every communication satellite carried hidden weapons. Every civilian cargo hauler was actually a disguised warship. "The Krethak think in terms of military targets," he explained to his staff. "They don't understand that humans don't separate civilian and military when survival is at stake. Our entire civilization is a weapon." General Vextar watched in growing horror as Earth itself began to fight back. Cities that should have been craters were instead launching devastating counterattacks. Civilian transports were revealing themselves as heavily armed warships. Even the planet's moon had opened up to reveal a massive fortress that began hammering his fleet with weapons that shouldn't have existed. "This is impossible," he hissed. "No species builds their entire civilization around warfare." His aide's response was barely a whisper. "Sir, I don't think they built it around warfare. I think they built it around survival. The truth was becoming clear to the Krethak command. Humans weren't weak because they lacked natural weapons. They were strong because they turned everything around them into weapons. They didn't survive because they were the toughest. They survived because they were the most adaptable. As the Krethak fleet found itself surrounded, outgunned and trapped in a solar system that had become a weapon pointed at their hearts, General Vexitar finally understood what his species had encountered. "Retreat," he ordered, his voice hollow with defeat. "Signal all ships. Full retreat." But Sarah Chen had one more lesson to teach about human survival. "Negative on the retreat, General," she broadcast on an open channel. "You came here to destroy us. Now you're going to learn why every species in this galaxy should think twice before threatening humanity's survival." The Krethak had come expecting to face soldiers. Instead, they found themselves fighting an entire species that had spent its entire evolutionary history learning one simple truth: adapt or die. And humanity had been adapting for a very long time. 6 hours later, the few surviving Krethak ships limped away from Earth's solar system. General Vexistar, his exoskeleton cracked and his pride shattered, sent a priority message to the Krethak homeworld. "Do not engage the humans," he warned. "They are not the weakest species in the galaxy. They are the most dangerous. They do not fight to win, they fight to survive. And they have been practicing survival far longer than we have been practicing war." Back on Earth, Commander Chen stood in the observation deck of the rebuilt Indomitable, watching the stars. Humanity had passed another test of survival, not through strength or superior technology, but through the one trait that had carried them from the caves of Earth to the stars themselves: the absolute, unshakable refusal to give up. In the end, that was the secret humans had learned long before they ever reached the stars. The strongest species wasn't always the one that survived. The species that survived was the one that never stopped fighting, never stopped adapting, and never, ever gave up. The Krethak had learned that lesson the hard way, and across the galaxy, other species began to take note. Humanity wasn't just another target. They were the species that turned survival itself into an art form.